is right on the border between Veneto and Friuli. It's actually the only DOTG appellation of Italy, which is interregional there between these two regions. And I will try to focus on a few aspects of sustainability, which I think are essential and most importantly easy to measure and less controversial. There's not an important part of sustainability here, which is economic sustainability, which is clearly very important, and without which all the rest would not be existing. Let's look at the first area of sustainability, the water footprint. We know that fresh water is a very scarce resource, and agriculture is the main culprit here. Approximately 70% of all fresh water used worldwide is used by irrigated agriculture. It used to be a problem, water scarcity, of Asia and developing and underdeveloped countries. Now it has become a problem, as we have seen in California, in Europe, in many countries. It's becoming a problem of the Western civilized countries as well. Let's look at some numbers. So it's interesting to see on top. We will come back to this image. It's just two images of the same grape variety. We have to the left an old vine, which at the top of the water stress this summer was developing, was showing a very balanced and developed growth both in the leaves and in the berries. To the right, we see a younger vine, and yeah, we don't have much to comment, unfortunately, on that one. Looking at some numbers, we are in a lucky part of Europe and Italy because we have approximately 1,150 millimeters of precipitations. About 2/3 of it is during the spring and summer season, and that is in a range well above what is considered healthy for the development during the cycle of the vine. And we know on top of that a moderate water stress can be very beneficial to the quality of the grapes and as well to the environment. So even in years like last year, where we had a 20% drop in precipitation, it turned out to be a pretty good year from a qualitative standpoint. On the left side, on the left hand, we can see the temperatures measured over the last 30 years. 2022 this year has been the second warmest on record, surpassed only by 2008. If you look at the total rainfall in the Veneto region, it's only the eighth poorest year. We're talking about roughly 20% drop in precipitation. Who cares, we could say. Unfortunately, one of the traits of climate change is not only that temperatures are going up and precipitation in some places are going down, but that we are witnessing an extreme, a higher volatility of dispersion and of temperature. So in other words, 20%, we could have reached with 20% drop. Unfortunately, you see from the map on the very top right hand that we are where the cross is. That part, which is the bright green, we actually suffered a 55% drop in precipitation. It was always raining, but always a few kilometers from us. That's mark below. And on top of that, higher dispersion means that even assuming the same amount of water, you can have a gentle rain, which is very beneficial, or you can have the sudden downpour, the cloudburst, the hail. And unfortunately, in the last 6 years, we had lots of them. We think basically we had a shortage of water this year. The shortage of green water, how the water from precipitation is usually defined. What do we do? Usually, when you have a shortage of water, you should replace green water with blue water. So if you have water available from lakes, rivers, canals, etc., you just use this water for irrigation. Obviously, you need A, water to be available, and B, water to be permitted. In Europe, most appellations they forbid the use of irrigation. Actually, there are some circumstances. The circumstances are of high stress when the development of a grape is threatened. Then in that case, you can intervene and you can water. On top of everything, unfortunately, this year we had a bit of problem with salinity. With a high temperature, what happens, a very unusual phenomenon which hasn't occurred in the north of Italy for 50 years is during the high tides, basically the salty water from the sea goes up the rivers. And so we had many situations where 20, 30, 40 kilometers from the sea, we could not water because we had salinity in excess of 1,500 parts per million, which means very salty water, which can immediately destroy your vines. So we spend for us buying new equipment because we get daily volunteers from third parties. But usually before you destroy your vines, you prepare to have your own equipment and it is all the numbers are correct. So what we've done, we needed water. We have a total extension of vineyards of 106 hectares. And we have divided our vineyards, exposed that for the sake of explaining what happened, in three groups. The vineyards that had less than 15 years, vineyards that had between 15 and 35 years, and vineyards that had between more than 35 years. One note on that. When we irrigate, our target is not to maximize yield or to have a certain yield in mind. We want to make sure that the vine is not under stress. We want to make sure that the quality of the grape is according to our expectations. So we water only when we think the quality is threatened or the vine is under stress. And our vines, as we had seen in the picture before, the young vines particularly were severely under stress. So we have irrigated a total amount of 130 millimeters on all the young vineyards. All the vineyards which had an intermediate age, all the old vines, we did not need to irrigate them. So when we arrive to that decision, I mean, obviously, you can look at many numbers, but at the end of the day, we have our good Lucio, who's the winemaker, and the agronomist at the estate, which just goes around and checks the barrel, checks the leaves, checks and everything, and at the end of the day, doesn't matter how many analyses we do, it's his call to decide what we have to do. So we decided to water only the young vineyards, and the results are quite surprising. If you see the last numbers, despite the very material amount of irrigation, if you think 130 millimeters is approximately 40% of the total precipitation which are expected during the summertime. It's even an approximate number because it's very high. If the temperatures are high, you have lots of evapotranspiration, so you need to irrigate more, etc. But it's a decent amount of water. And despite all this watering, our yields were only 82.6% of the yield of the previous 3 years, which were on average on what we would expect. Vineyards of intermediate age is 6.8, and the old vineyards 87.2. And within the group, the numbers are all, even more interesting. And it was quite shocking to see how resilient our old vineyards were. So the conclusion is quite interesting there. It's quite impressive because it gives you a very pragmatical idea of how the different vineyards of the different ages have reacted. And the second very interesting observation that I tried looking at the individual vineyards and the age of the vineyard is that The improvement started to occur around 40 years. It basically means, in other words, once you enter the old wine club, you suddenly reap all the benefits. It's quite intuitive that one of the reasons for this resilience is the fact that old wines have a very long and a big lateral expansion of the roots. And once they have reached 40 years, that apparatus is quite material and the growth starts slowing down. So you still notice decrease for a year, but it slows down progressively. So why is this happening? Also, we had mentioned the depth of the roots of the old vines. We are talking about a depth of approximately 4 centimeters on the vineyards that have more than 80 years of age. Besides the depth, there's a volume. There's this lateral expansion, and that's what many agronomists and experts in viticulture called smart water management. It sounds like a very typical intuitive concept, but it's like having lots of taps on all sides and at all times. The plant is very smart, and when it has an excess of water or a lack of water, it tends to switch on and off the taps at different times and different positions, and it always optimizes the amount of water, whether there's too much water or not enough water. And on top of that, it's an interesting observation. Sometimes we look at things done in the past and we don't understand why they were made in a certain way. And Lucio keeps telling me if people do things in a certain way, maybe they were not stupid, and there is the real reason why they did that. It's interesting on our oldest vineyards that they are shaped in a quadrangular shape, and they have canals on the borders. And they were the entire soil within the arid flat area was built with a tight concavity. The concavity, alongside planting the lines closer to the border, allows the plant to be in a favorable situation where with the park management they can, if needed, open the taps closer to the canal or close the taps and open them towards the center of the field when it's valued. The third point, which again, I'm not an academic, but for instance, the point that Professor Veronese makes quite often is Professor of Agriculture at the Catholic University in Italy, is the wooden component of the old vines. The more vines grow, the bigger is the percentage of the wooden component, which acts not only as a reserve storage, but it helps in the metabolism of the plant and helps a lot for the plant to deal with extreme variations in temperature. So, on the second point, a second area of sustainability, which is energy and CO2 footprint. Again, water consumption and energy consumption go hand in hand. It's quite intuitive that if you have to irrigate, there are different irrigation systems. Most of them are based on pumps, and the pumps, whether they are underground, overground, or by aspersion, sprinklers, etc., they use lots of energy. And on top of the energy used to run the water pumps, you need to have the water available. So what happens in our case, we're quite lucky because the state is shaped like a small heart, and the borders are 2 rivers. So we have the luxury of being able to take water from the 2 rivers. And on top of that, there is a 3rd river passing nearby. So we had 2 occasions in which this year there was a salinity warning, and we decided not to take any chance and not to use the water from the two main rivers, but from the third one, which passes nearby, but which comes from a spring which is has less salinity but more distant from where we need the water. So this implies using a system of line gates, pumping waters from canals into canals, or using pipes, etc. So in our case, we are talking about less than a kilometer distance, but there were people this summer that had to travel bigger distances. So these are pumps that use a lot of energy. So without, again, remaining in practical terms, without taking into account the big increase of energy prices we see this year, by just by volume, we are now already 20% higher in terms of energy consumption this year than we were last year. And this is considering that we set as a target the energy neutral, and we have constantly failed because energy consumption keeps going up. There are other points about CO2, which are more complex and even more contentious, and related to the fact that in agriculture and viticulture there are lots of operations which again are very energy intensive. Feeding, for example, is a practice which is very energy intensive. It usually serves feeding as a purpose that of removing the weed under the vines, but it can serve other purposes. For instance, improving the access of the vine to oxygen, water, and nutrients. In our case, we have a very particular terroir. In some areas, the soil composition is mineral of alluvial origin, which basically means it's very calcareous in that, very mineral. But as when you move to the surface, there is a big vein of clay, which in some parts reaches 54%. So it is a really high percentage of clay, which on one hand is very helpful for development of some very interesting traits of the wines. On the other hand, it's very, very difficult to work. You have to work today with mechanical means, and for instance, filling pieces. One of them, you need to constantly try to dig small holes to allow the soil to breathe. But most importantly, you need to create a very balanced soil, which is some people call it sustainable farming, people call it regenerative agriculture. There are many different words. At the end of the day, we are just talking about allowing the interaction between the vines, the soil, the grass, the flowers, lots of insects and lots of microorganisms, for instance, mycorrhizae, that are very beneficial because they work very close to the root of the vine, and they allow a healthy development of the vine. So the scientific explanation is I wouldn't know it in detail, but the reality is that on the old vines they have reached a perfect balance that the younger vines have not achieved. We don't need to do thinning in our old vineyards, and even if you take a chemical analysis of the two parts of the estate, they have the same chemical composition. You do exactly the same thing. You will see, for instance, that the permeability of the two parts are completely different. It's a symbiosis with all the different parts, and the lack of human interaction, which sometimes is very beneficial. We cannot achieve this in a matter of years, or maybe even 5, 10, 15 years, and you can see that on days where the vineyard has been there for 50, 60 plus years, you have this magic effect. There is another point about energy and CO2 impact. Clearly, all vineyards they have much less consistent with mechanization. There are so many operations, including harvest, that you cannot do with machines. So you would start a plant, you would start a machine, you would achieve anything because every single line differs from another. Doing everything by hand is clearly very sustainable and very environmental friendly, but it's not necessarily economic. So I would be very hypocritical to say you can do everything manually sustainable because in reality it is not. It's interesting that Italy abolished the share profit in 1982. There are a few families that still live in the estate or just around the estate. Back in the 60s, the previous owners had 170 hectares of vines and 140 people living on the estate. So if you have pretty much one person per hectare, clearly that you don't need really big machinery. It's economic. I think even a small fraction of that will bankrupt as your money. You take us into the last point of sustainability, which is the preservation of the environment, of the health, and of biodiversity. I think in general, if you believe in sustainability and this approach, it's not just about having a certification or having a label. I'm actually very, very cynic sometimes when I hear talking about sustainability. And particularly last year, we decided, well, we are very sustainable, whether we have a certification, it's a zero cost benefit because we tick already all the boxes. So we contacted a few general advisors that always come to help in the circumstances. And the first thing before even visiting the estate, we were shown like a cost estimate like 50K for the time of how to become sustainable. So we're not sustainable yet, and I'm having second thoughts about having that certification. But again, I'm a cynical person, so most of it. What is sustainable to us? It's usually trying to run an estate and produce wine without leaving a scar on the environment and without leaving a scar on the health of the consumer. We know that many substances, even substances that are allowed in organic viticulture, let's say copper, for example, they have very long time decays that can remain underground for decades and hundreds of years, besides landing possibly in the wines we drink. What I would like to show is that at least in our limited case, there is some evidence that old wines display a reduced use for treatment. And they have a much higher resilience and resistance to some type of diseases, fungi, parasites, etc. I think it's widely accepted that the vineyard is like a human organism or any kind of organism. Over time, the organism keeps learning and keeps strengthening the immune system. This is exactly what happened with all vines. I'm taking some key diseases in particular because they have been our friends for a while. One of them is golden flavescens or flavescens doré. It's a very lethal and irreversible disease, or technically speaking, it's a phytoplasma, and it basically is due by a small offer called Scapoideus titanus that sucks, and it's actually a very good choice of word. It sucks the lymph from the vine and injects the phytoplasma, and it's an irreversible disease. So once we have it, there's no treatment, and even ex ante, there is only one substance that can try to prevent it, but we did not allow the other organic participation. So we have measured the occurrence in our state over 3 years, and with all new vineyards, plant sense rate is 820% higher in terms of frequency in new vineyards. And if we take our 2 oldest vineyards, the plant sense is completely absent. Is it a coincidence? Lots of people say, well, maybe it's due to the variety or it's due to other factors, something the factor of age. The variety, yes, it plays a role. We are talking about, for instance, Bogdano, and science has shown in recent years that Bogdano and Corvina, in particular the grape which makes Amarone, are 2 of the varieties which are less susceptible to flavescence chloride. However, we have 3.5 hectares of Merlot, which is right next to a horrible Pinot Grigio which has been affected. And the Merlot is just sitting there in 3.5 hectares. So we are talking about 12,000 vines. None of them has been affected. And Merlot is actually a variety which is quite vulnerable to flavescence chloride. So some people are skeptics, so that they actually find that the reality is that it's all the fault of the nurseries. What happens when you have a new vineyard, it's not just that the vineyards are more vulnerable, but if a new vineyard, they keep replacing and planting that they're made with vines that come from nurseries, because nurseries tend to produce on a mass scale, and they are in a market where the competition for price is extreme, and they produce millions and millions of pieces at a very low cost. But sometimes they're cutting corners. So when they produce the vines, instead of taking all the hygiene meters necessary, they tend to infect the material. And that was the blame that the French 10 years ago, they had another disease, which was the disease about 10 years ago. And they all blame it on the nursery, saying, well, you're cutting corners, selling us infected material, etc., etc. So lots of people say, well, the old vineyards, they are immune simply because there's no new material coming, so they are in a way shielded from external contamination. However, this is not correct, because in recent years, unfortunately, there have been many studies simply because flavescence is a new philosopher. He is expanding a lot. I hope it is not, but he is expanding a lot. It's in Italy, speaking France, and all the way into Eastern Europe. So it's becoming quite a world phenomenon. So there have been lots of studies that have been made, and some of them show that flavescence is traveling 1.5 kilometers every year, which means if that is true, nursery or not nursery, all our vineyards by now should have been affected, and that is not the case. The second disease, fungus-like disease, the downy mildew. We have noticed in this case as well a much high resilience of all the old vines. We have two stations within the estate where we are measuring in real time lots of parameters going from temperature, humidity, wind, expected precipitation, etc., etc. All these data are sent to the software, and the business software is sending some triggers. We set some boundaries, and for instance, when the software says based on this level of humidity and this temperature, and there's 75% that if you don't intervene in the next 12 hours, you will have a chance of infection. So we have learned over the years that this information is extremely useful, but at the end of the day, the amount of substance that we're using from the old vineyards is approximately 1/3 lower than from the old vineyard. Already Lucia knows that when the alarm is triggered, the old vines that can rest in peace, and we have to run in that the individual aspect, regional. I mean, all the are very extremely vulnerable as a variety, but there are quite a few that worry us much more. So I'd say that even on the regarding this point, all vines they take most of it for us. And I think I'm almost done. Almost done boring you. I think there are a huge number of topics, and some of them are very complex and controversial. But I think the key point in this discussion is a different one. An old vine is not just a bureaucratic number. An old vine is not a new vine taken and rolled forward 50 or 100 years. Old vine is a philosophy. The Tusti, who has worked in the Uri region and part of Slovenia for almost 50 years, is telling me this resistance, this resilience is something that the vine has built over decades. But if you take a vine now and you use all the massive systems of viticulture in 50 years, even allowing that it reaches 50 years, which is quite unlikely, you will not get a resilient vine. In other terms, this philosophy requires a different and integrated approach with agronomy and viticulture. I think it's like having a car. If you service it properly, the car can last 10 or 10 years. If you start taking the Silverstone or Spain every weekend, there's a good chance that it will not last very long. And the thing that we find is exactly the same. We are going in some occasions always look for the maximum yield. We put lots of food, lots of new nutrients, lots of water, and we're basically spoiling the plant. The result is that this goes we pay the price in the long term with a higher loan and a shorter life cycle and a much higher vulnerability of the plant. So how do we call this approach? Sustainable agriculture. It means that affecting a different philosophy and saying that the linear is a very delicate environment. We need to strike the right balance. We need to have lots of different species of insects, animals, plants, etc. and find and this doesn't mean going back to the Middle Ages. On the contrary, it's taking a scientific approach, and there are lots of even European projects that go in that direction. For instance, we have just started a project of a food forest where we're planting some autochthonous plants, trees, bushes, etc. that cause some insects, and the insects are antagonistic to phytophagous insects. So you're trying to create an environment with bees and other insect plants, flowers, fungi, etc. That creates a harmonic environment and that takes care in part of the problem. And I think that at the end of the day is the result that count. On the communication side, I think it's very important that all this information, all this sustainability translates in a bigger awareness on the side of overusers, on the side of the consumers, and on the side of everyone in the industry. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to preserve an old vine and make quality wine from that. And I find that the market does not recognize the time of the effort I'm making. Then obviously I haven't wanted to lotteries, but eventually all the efforts are going to fail. So it's crucially important to raise the awareness. And then forget not only consumer producers, players, but even the policymakers. There was an interesting question in the previous session about disease, and there are a lot of rumors. All vines, they're so vulnerable. With the fluorescence, I guarantee that lots of people who went to include it and they cut down lots of vines and whole vineyards simply because they're saying, oh, they're clearly more vulnerable. We start from the old vines that are weaker. I think the reality is there's a bit of ignorance, but again, as I said before, I'm a bastard, so I don't think it's ignorant. If you replant, if you cut down all your lines and you plant new ones, you get at least 40%. Right now, you can get at least 40% capital contribution. So it basically means that half of the expense is already paid by someone else. So let's go for the 200 quintals per hectare, and within 15 years, the plant is down. There's a plant that you want, I'll pay the bill. And that's it. So it is important to communicate and raise awareness even with policy makers and who are not help globally in that area. And I think all of that for the information, communication, for the promotion and marketing is important, and is the main reason why we decided to support the online conference and the terrific work that we are all doing. Thank you.
Thank you. So we please do grab some questions. I would just like to say that Bogdano and under Domenico's leadership, they are actually sponsoring our first all-vine conference field trip. So we have places available. It's held over a weekend, 10th to the 12th of November, and it's a really immersive trip to the vineyards. You get to meet with Professor Mario Pagoni, who's like the legend. He's like the ultimate 150-year-old vine. He's not 150, but he's basically wise. And also Colin Fitzgibbon, and they are basically the leading experts on all of these aspects of this holistic viticulture within culture, agronomy, regeneration. And so if you're interested, please let us know. That is field trip that's available to our community. Thank you. Thank you.